Alrighty guys, welcome back to another Age of Empires 3 match. This one will be with China. As you can clearly tell, I am about to do a little bit of a deck walkthrough. That way you guys can see what I am doing with my deck and where I'm going. So as usual, if you want to know when the actual match starts, the link to it will be in the description. That way you know exactly the time the match starts. But I figured today we would start off our match, since our match is definitely slightly on the shorter side, by going through my current Chinese rush deck that I have been working on. So this is my Chinese rush deck. It's pretty, I guess, standard, but it's not great. I just want to be open about it. It's a work in progress. I haven't played much China rush yet, so I've been throwing things in as I've learned about them. Let's go. I think what I'll do in order to just explain is I'll go through each of the categories where we can get cards from, and I'll explain which cards I have from there and why. First off, I do have this card I found called Northern Refugees, and basically what it means is each village and town center will do a one-time muster of one villager. Now what you're going to see in the game I play today is I build two villages right as fast as possible with my starting wood on Deccan, and then I'm able to send this card and get 3 villagers. So this card actually is the equivalent of a 3 villager shipment. So it's actually a very good replacement and an alternative to the 300 food first stage card. Now, for the rest of my first stage cards, I do have some fairly substandard stuff here. I do have all the 3 crates. I choose to put them in there because I wasn't sure what else was better. I know that there's some monk improvements, but I haven't personally unlocked those yet, and I don't see them as necessarily wise or useful. And I do have this consulate card you may see called Good Faith Agreements. My armies and improvements arrive faster. Brigade shipments get a discount, and improvements cost less. So that's kind of what we're doing with that. It allows us to utilize a consulate because China does passively collect export as a resource. We want to utilize it and make the most of it, so that's why I have that card there. Also from the treasury, I have all the 700 resource cards and the 1000 resource card, and again, I'm putting those in there because I'm not quite sure what else to put in there that's better, and I find them to be helpful. Of course, as we go through this, I might find something that's better and change my mind, so we'll see. The next area of cards that we got our cards from is a fortress. Now, you may notice as China, I do have actually 4 military cards in my deck. I have a Choco No, I have the Mandarin Juk Squad, I have the Qiang Pikemen, and I have the Step Riders, as I was corrected in the comments. They're not Steepy, they're Step Riders. I have the Step Riders. And that combined comes out to, what, 18, 26, 33 units I can send in the second age, which is a huge boom to your military if I am able to send them all. There isn't many other good second age choices I've noticed. Everything else seems to come in age 3. So I pretty much have every good first age choice available. I don't have many upgrades. I do have a repelling volley, which gives Choco Nose an extra bonus. And I do have another army coming in age 3 and some other age 3 stuff. But for the most part, I don't have any upgrades, and I do not have many anything super long term. I have these 4 units, and then I have another 3 good armies I like for the third age, and that's about it. And part of the reason why that's all I have so far is because I really haven't gotten into a drawn out match with China. They're very, very powerful rushing civs, so having a really strong second age with military and resources has really been helpful and effective in all the time I've gone to play them. One card, though, I do really like here, and I'd encourage you to look into, is this card called the Old Han Reforms. It's definitely in all my treaty decks, but it increases Choco No and Qiang Pikemen and their hit points greatly, at the cost of also increasing the cost of their army. However, because you rarely go to the 4th age in a rush game, I don't have it in my rush deck, but it is a staple of treaty deck. There's also other great late-term cards like Western Reforms, which raises all attack and hit points by 8%. And other interesting armies like the Ever Victorious Army, which will send 3 Flying Crows and Iron Flails and an Infinite Flying Crow card. So there's choices down the road, but in terms of short term, these 4 cards, the Choco No, the Mandarin Duck Squad, the Qiang Pikemen, and the Step Riders are about the best you can get at this age. I don't think I've missed much else. You could send this card, which gives you standard army hit points, but I like what I have in there, and I'm not necessarily as huge on beefed up units as I am mass of units, so that's kind of why I do not have that card in there. However, standard army hit points is a good card choice if you wanted it. In terms of Imperial Court, I have none of the native upgrades actually. I haven't used natives with China at all, no trading posts. I do need to look into that, I'll be honest. But I do have some choices. or interesting choices. I have all 3 consulate cards, including the Good Faith Agreement, which we discussed, Intervention, which ships units from the consulate, and looking back at it, that's an awful card. We can do something better. And the Diplomatic Intrigue, which gives us export and makes everything we do with them a lot cheaper. And that's what we want. These 2 cards allow us to be able to utilize our consulate at a better level. It makes switching between consulate allies cheaper. It makes sending the units cheaper. It makes the units arrive faster. One good card I see a lot in Chinese decks, and I think I'll throw it in there, is this card called Auto War. It does make all your barracks and stables and corrals and everything much, much cheaper. So I don't put that in there for... I don't know. It's one of those things where you send, but because you have such a precise build order in the early game, I generally don't throw it in there. But I think I'll add it in. It's not a bad choice. I do have both team training, or both my personal training faster cards, Acupuncture, which is age 3, and Banner School, which is age 2. Banner School only applies to banner armies, whereas Acupuncture applies to all my units. But Banner School is the one that we really need in order to make sure our army comes fast. And I do have 2 castles thrown in there. That's primarily defensive. It allows me to kind of, if I need to, put up a little bit more of a defensive front on the game. Not a huge useful card, but I do have the consulate, I do have the resources, and I do have the ability to train units faster. So I felt like having these 2 defensive castles in my deck was a good choice. I haven't really sent them actually at all yet, but they're there. And it's one of those things. I'm not sure what would be better. Now, in terms of upgrade, you may notice I have practically no upgrades scheduled. And the reason why is most of these, in my mind at least, are treaty caliber upgrades. You have a lot of farming upgrades. You have an export for coin. That actually might not be a bad card to throw in there, actually. Let me see. I'm not sure. That would be an interesting card to throw in there, but because I don't really utilize mercenaries that much, I don't know if export for coins is the greatest trade, especially since we do like using our consulate. We're not going to livestock boom. I could probably throw in this one, which makes us gather from hunted animals, berries, and cherry orchard faster. It's called Furier. Actually, that should be in pretty much every rush deck everywhere, so I'm going to take out 300 wood and throw in that card instead. I'm also going to take out 300 gold, I think, and throw in the silver. Oh, I can't throw it in. Okay. Well, I'll throw in a wood upgrade. I'll throw in this wood upgrade because it provides more of an upgrade. See, 20% as opposed to 15%. We'll put in the 20%, get more wood. This is an excellent card choice too. Silversmith, it means you gather coin from mines faster. I highly recommend it. However, my second age is kind of busy. Because I do have all 700 shipments and whatever. I recommend it. However, since I'm kind of a little bit hyper offensive and I like to attack fast with large units, I don't have that upgrade particularly in this deck. Things such as land grab and land reforms, I don't really like them. I mean, they do make building faster or cheaper, but it's not the end of the world to not have those cards, and those seem like they would only exist well in a temperamental strategy. The fishing cards I would put in if I did have a fishing deck, but I do not currently. However, I would like to highlight this card, which is called East Indian Man, and it gives you a dock rickshaw and makes fishing boats cheaper, so it's an excellent choice for any fishing strategy. China can definitely utilize water fairly well, in my opinion. Excellent card, not in this deck, though, because it's my rush deck basic. And lastly, Customs House. You have some mercs and some military and some ocean upgrades, but again, I don't have any fishing deck, and I haven't really bothered to unlock most of them because I really play China in rush or on land treaty when I do play them, so that's why I don't have much unlocked here. In terms of mercenaries, I'm not a huge fan of the rattan shields or the Mandarin armies or the cavalry archers they can send. Let me know in the comments if they're good, but I prefer not to use them. So for most part, when you look back at China, what you really get is you get a very strong colonial civ because they can make settlers as they age. They can build a tower or a porcelain tower, which gives them resources, or they can build a summer palace, which makes them units, or they can get artillery. They have choices. They can have a very strong consulate. They can have a very strong economy despite not having villager cards. And my deck kind of reflects the choices I have. Even though I'm, for the most part, not going to send villagers, I'm going to send things that assist me. And I'm also not going to send upgrades as much because I find most of China's upgrades to be more long-term rather than short-term. So that is practically it. I'm just looking through here. I generally like having covered wagon cards in my deck. I think I'll take out the 1,000 wood and throw in a town rickshaw, I guess, as it's called. Oh, one last thing I forgot. I do have both refrigeration and Royal Mint. They do provide an across-the-board food and gold bonus in the third age, and that's pretty much my only concession I make for long-term planning. So this is my deck, guys. If you have any suggestions or comments, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I just figured it'd be a good idea for me to show you what I do, why I do it, and it kind of allows us to discuss and think as a community, and I love doing this. So thank you for watching. The match will be starting right about now. I'm BTM. Welcome back to match 26. Thanks for subscribing, and without further ado, here is the match I have recorded for today. Alrighty, here we go. We have a 3-on-3 on Deccan. Opposing my team, we have a Chinese, a French, and a British player playing against me as China with a Dutch and a Ottoman ally. So right off the bat, the first thing I know in my head is that Ottoman will either be our saving grace or the cause of our loss, because if he can play well and rush well, we will get the upper hand and have a very, very powerful rush. If he doesn't play as well, I feel like we could be in some trouble right off the bat. Now, I do instantly have a little bit of lag at the beginning of the game, but just enough to be able to get all my villagers out to different things without any lag, and that made me very, very happy. I've been working a lot on my micromanagement in an attempt to make it better, and like other people I see on YouTube, such as Interjection, who I'm a huge fan of. So that is what is going on right off the bat to begin the game. Now, I am going to be very careful at the beginning of this game not to gather my extra crates. You may notice there I have 2 more villagers going directly to the herdables. I have the villagers gathering the food in the wood, but nothing else. Now, I do tell my teammates at this point in the game, hey, I'm going Choco No and Pikemen. I've worked on that strategy a bit, and I'm pretty excited about seeing how it works off. Now, in terms of Chinese strategy, I have actually learned an answer to a few of the questions I had posed in my last Chinese video. And the first one I said was, does China have a first age choice beyond the 3 villager card? And I said at the time they do not. I couldn't find one. I said, if you're China, you might as well send that 300 wood, because you do not have an equivalent 3 villager card. Pardon me. However, China actually does have a pretty good equivalent of a 3 villager card, as we looked at in the preview to this match, and it's called Northern Refugees. So my basic goal here will be to get my villages up as fast as possible. That way, when I get the first shipment card, when I get my first shipment and my first card, I should say, I'll be able to send the Northern villagers as soon as possible, and therefore have 3 villagers sent to me. I do have everybody on food at this point. Remember, China can make villagers while aging, so we're going to, from now until the end of the game, just make villagers. And our hope is that we'll age well enough to the point where we can, without stopping making villagers, keep moving on. And I'm sorry for that delay there. I had to figure out my words for a second. So we do have both villagers up. We have left our coin crates completely untouched, which is very good, because that means all our villagers have been focusing on the resources we need, and that means it's a plus for us. Now, me and the other Chinese player are in a little bit of a rush to get cows at this point, and I see him working really hard to protect that one yak, but I'm not going to get it, so I decided to go look for some of my own yaks. Hopefully I'll be able to grab a few. By the way, I did previously mention in the last video that yaks do double as fattening places, or as livestock pens, so we're in good shape. Again, I see Blue taking more yaks across the map, but I am unable to gather them. He is doing a very good job leading them and having them walk with his men, so I am just going to keep looking and seeing if there's anything else I can grab. At this point, though, I'm up to 15 villagers, and generally with China, you're supposed to age up with between 16 to 17 villagers. You could probably do it 15, especially since it is Deccan, and I'm going to choose to age with 15 instead of the 16 or 17 recommended. Now, the thing about Chinese aging is the Wonder. I looked it up, and I was told also by other people that the equivalent of 4 villagers on the Wonder is the equivalent of aging up in the normal European time. So we are going to have 4 villagers on that Wonder. We are going to have our remaining villagers split between wood and food. That way we can have enough wood to build a war academy as we age up. And I am now finally going to gather that coin because I want to get some upgrades. Fortunately, right off the bat, we are able to find one of Red's Coeur de Bois on the map. I'm able to go get it and start pressuring it. I don't think I'm in danger of killing it, but I am able to kind of get him concerned about it and walking around, and that was just my goal. I just wanted to cause him some problems and mess with him a bit. Yellow at this point, 3 minutes 40 seconds in the game, hits a second age. I am about halfway aged, and I see yellow working immediately, getting a stable up, which is excellent. I'm going to attempt to replicate his success. Now, at this point, I definitely debated a little bit whether I should send the 300 wood, but I figured, looking at the amount of time I had left to age, 6 villagers on wood, I said, you know what, I will definitely make it. I also chose not to get an upgrade there because I did not want to endanger not having enough wood to build a war academy with when I aged, and I had already sent that villager to start walking across the map. So at this point, I felt like my early game was pretty good. I did accidentally misclick there. Those villagers shouldn't have even gotten off the wonder to begin with, but I think I accidentally pressed caps lock instead of shift, trying to shift click them around. So a little bit of a rookie mistake on my part. Fortunately for us, though, we are going to hit the next age. We are going to start building our war academy very quickly, and we will have our shipment ready to go. And our barracks are definitely solidly in the middle of the map, so it does feel like we're in a good position at this point. I have an 8-9 split on food and wood, and I have 8 Chocono coming. I did pick that for my first shipment because I'm expecting some kind of musketeer or crossbowman strategy. And the reason why the musketeer is important is because if the British player on their team isn't messing musketeers as I expect him to, me having step riders in my first shipment, I feel like would be throwing them away. So I figured Chocono were a cheaper and wiser choice for my first shipment. And fortunately, just as I get the War Academy up, I am able to go and click my first standard army. So all is going very, very well. Orange does have 5 Janissaries out on the map. He's going to destroy Blue's War Academy. Hopefully he can take it down before Blue can do anything about it. Now, at this point, I do something kind of fun here. I realize that they're all focusing fire on my monk, so I'm going to have him make, or my main explorer, so I'm going to have him make 4 disciples, and I check him here to see if he'll be able to make them before he dies, and it looks like he will. So watch this. He's about to die, and then I get some more disciples, and this was, in my mind, a very good play because that meant that Red was going to focus on killing my really cheap and stupid units, and while Orange could have his Janissaries pick him apart. So I was very, very pleased with myself actually for doing that. I was like, yes, awesome. Now, by this point in the match, so my standard army has gotten on the field, and it looks like we are going to be able to take out this barrack, which is absolutely excellent. And my 8 Choconos have managed to get across the map, and I see yellow already putting pressure on with his Hussar. So at this point, we definitely, I feel, have a good jump on how things are going. Now, at this point, purple now sends in his own Hussar to come and try to kill us, and I desperately try not to freak out, and I merely instead have all my Chocono micromanage out the musketeers. That way they die. I'm trusting Orange to hopefully go into melee mode and save my Chocono. He does kill some of the cavalry. No, he manages to kill all of it, so most of my Choconos stay intact. I managed to keep making more armies. At this point, it's going fairly well. I do see 2 of Purple's villagers there, so I am going to quit attacking the stable temporarily. Hopefully I can kill those villagers. I know how British are with manor houses. I don't want to allow them to merely just escape and just kind of breed. Unfortunately, as I'm starting to work to get pressure on them, Purple does get out some more Hussar, so I am unfortunately going to have to try to keep those Chocono alive without dying to the vastly superior number of Hussar. Fortunately, I am able to run the Chocono backwards and have my step riders front and take the melee damage. I do have a standard army coming out, or Old Han, I'm not sure which it is, but I do have them come out, so I have a few more pikemen and a few more Choconos on the field. Unfortunately, I felt, at least at the time, like most of them weren't going to survive. We do get a little bit of micromanagement there, though, just enough to keep a good amount of my army alive, but not a lot of it. We did lose a lot of men to those Hussar. Those Hussar are definitely a tough unit for China to beat, and because of that, I do send the Queen Pikemen as my next shipment, and I do finally build a consulate. My goal at this point is, again, to start using the British as my consulate ally. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that's something I've actually been taught. You are most definitely supposed to use Britain as your consulate ally. They give a boost to land unit hit points, and they can allow you to ship redcoats and other very, very good shipments. Now, at this point, I do have my army split up, and the reason why I split them up was I felt like my army up there could definitely handle those few Hussar, and I felt like that other army could take down, or at least get some good damage on that stable, and that was kind of my mentality at this point. We do have 2 more armies coming, so I'm not necessarily too worried. Orange and yellow are putting some good pressure on the town center, and the reason why I didn't go in was because I was fighting purple. Purple was making Hussar, and I was killing them. So from my perspective, even though I wasn't necessarily where they were, I definitely felt like I was contributing my part to this team. Looking back on it, I was kind of like, well, maybe I should have marched with them, but I think leaving that stable there long term would have been a far worse choice. Fortunately, though, the stable goes down. Now we're going to move our collected army of Choco No, Step Riders, and Quang Pikemen into the town to back up Orange and to back up Yellow, who are putting pressure on them. And I do have more Quang Pikemen coming. My army is blossoming pretty good. I do use a move all military units click now in order to make sure all my military does get to the town. That way I didn't forget anything. At this point, though, Red is in a world of trouble. Orange has Janissaries all over his base, and I'm about to march in with my army, including a lot more Quang Pikemen, which will definitely provide a huge sieging backbone to our current efforts. I did there, by the way, micromanage a little bit and send those Step Riders to go kill the Choconos that were attacking us, and I wanted to buy Redcoats here, but I was unable to at this point. So that's what's going on there. We will get some more standard armies coming, though. Fortunately, though, I do see a little bit of Blue's army coming in, and I micromanage out my Quang Pikemen to go kill those Step Riders of his own, and then I get them out of the way so they don't go die to the Chocono. Actually, it's Chocono run away. Never mind. Fortunately, though, we are doing a fairly good job at this point, absolutely demolishing Red. Red is in a world of trouble. We have managed to keep a pretty good eye on our population and our resources, so all around I felt like playing very, very good. This game's definitely in our upper hand. I was able to kill all of Purple's cavalry spam at the beginning. Yellow's able to pester them, and Orange and me now have really combined to have an absolutely absurd amount of men in his base, in their bases, causing problems. Now here I did split out my army temporarily, and then I unsplit them. The reason why you should split out your army, as far as I've been able to tell from learning from people, is it allows you to keep the slow and faster groups apart and allows you to use the more appropriate units for the more appropriate time. So as you can see here, I do send my Quang Pikemen to go attack those Musketeers, but then I send my Quang Pikemen to go attack the Hussar, but the Hussar run away, and Musketeers appear, so I back off my Quang Pikemen, but then the Hussar come back, so I end up killing all the Hussar with my Quang Pikemen and micromanaging out some of the Musketeers with help, of course, from Orange. And I'm going to take down another one of Orange's stables at this point, but I'm using my Quang Pikemen to do it and letting my Chocono provide some fire support. Now, I definitely should not have looked away at this point, but I noticed that I had 7 villagers idle, and I just was like, that's not going to fly. So I did, despite the fact that I had looked away, I did that because I felt it was a smart choice. Purple resigns here, though, and then Red and Blue do too. So it was a little bit of a good game. Not the best played game, but I felt, at least from my part, like I did do a little bit better micromanaging, and that's something I'm very aware of. I don't feel like I'm a good micromanager. So we were able to use China here. We were able to use a Summer Palace, get a steady rush going, able to have a good wood food split. We had a lot extra. If the game had gone on, we definitely could have looked at getting another War Academy or 2 built up as a forward base and moving on. I did have the most military units. I was very proud of that by a pretty good amount, although the other China was fairly close, and I killed the third most. My economy was a close third, so also it was a very, very good game. I felt like, even though I'm not the best, I felt like I was able to pull off China fairly well in this match. So that was the game today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry it's been a while between matches, by the way, guys. I have a lot of trouble finding matches where I feel like I play well and people don't quit or drop or some stupidness. So that's today's match. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do have a request list that I am going to get to. Currently on my request list, I have India Treaty, games as German, and a game on Amazon, including some more Aztec playing. Or playing as Aztec is also on the list. So I will definitely get to that. As you can see, I was so close to getting Redcoats, but I was unable to get to them. But we won, so that's all that matters. So good game, everybody. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave a subscription. I'll get back to daily videos right now, actually, because I'm uploading this. Bye. Just kidding. You can't get rid of me that easily. Thanks for watching again, and happy hunting.